playing defensive. Schmeichel's not coming up for this one. Thinks he's done enough.
Is this their moment? It's a Sheringham, and Solskjaer has won it! Manchester United have reached the promised land. Ole Solskjaer,
9, 8,
two substitutes,
7,
have scored the
6,
2 goals in
5,
stoppage time.
4,
And the
3,
treble looms
2,
large.
1.
Hello and welcome back to the United Community Podcast. This is episode number 2 of the 2022-2023 Premier League season. And already, I don't really want to do this anymore. And it's all down to Manchester United and how poor they are. Look, we have plenty to talk about again tonight. Obviously, the main topics is going to be Manchester United and how they've been, letting their fans down, letting their club down again. So plenty to talk about in relation to Manchester United. Is the goalkeeper good enough? Are British players to blame? How much help does Ten Hag need? Potential cancellation for Cristiano Ronaldo. We're also going to talk about Arsenal and the fact that Gabriel Jesus is off the mark. We had a cracking game between Chelsea and Spurs, so we have plenty to talk about with that as well. Bruyne, we're going to talk about, and is he maybe one of the best players ever to play in the Premier League? And then we're also going to talk about Villa versus Everton and how Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard went head-to-head. And, of course, we'll get into our Fantasy Premier League review later in the show, and we'll try maybe take some calls. If anyone does want to call in later in the show, we can certainly do that as well. But, again, I just want to introduce everyone to my guest today, and he's back again, and we were delighted to have him on last week for the first one, and he's on again today. Ricey, good to see you, man. How are you getting on?
Well, Jack, how are you? All good?
All good, all good.
Good on my end, not on yours, is it?
Well, that's what I was just going to say. It's been an absolutely atrocious weekend for United and United fans in general. What did you make of the weekend in general in relation to fixtures and games?
Yeah, well, look, there was some up and down games in the Premier League, wasn't there? Obviously, your big talking point here now is Man United, and where do they really go from here?
Yeah,
just kind of as you think. Well, I won't say as you think, things can't get any worse. Like, new manager, few new players, new season, you're hoping for the best, and suddenly you're after making your worst start in the Premier League in over 100 years.
Yeah, and bottom of the table.
Bottom of the table, haven't even scored a goal. Well, technically have scored a goal, an own goal, but it's not going to get any easier. Liverpool this day week, isn't it?
Liverpool this day week, yeah, Monday Night Football next week. So yeah, I mean, look, we'll get into it. Before we do, anyone who's listening, I really appreciate it. Please hit a like on the podcast as well. And anyone who's listening back, maybe, obviously we're live at the moment on the Podbean app, but if you're listening back on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to your podcast, please give us a like, a follow, and a 5-star review. But I suppose let's get into it straight away, Ricey. And obviously the main talking point is Manchester United and how bad they are. What did you make in general of their performance on Saturday?
Sure, I don't even think there's any real positives you can take from the match. Is there? Like, manager's expressions on the sideline, his kind of interview after the match, it just kind of says it all. He's trying to be as positive as he can, and look, he is building. I wouldn't be of any opinion of saying that like he's not the right man for the job or anything. These things do need time, and it is going to be a project, but I just think the amount of work that you have to do at United is like a lot bigger than anybody has even thought, like, I don't know, just like off the bat, like you could potentially get rid of a lot of players, but there's like, where would it stop really? In my opinion, I don't know why he said Dean Henderson, why was he sent out on loan, not sold for 20-25 million? Like, what was the idea behind the loan?
I think, well, the only real explanation I can give for players going out on loan, especially from Manchester United, is the fact that we've given them unbelievable wages and foolish wages over the last maybe 10 years in the kind of Ed Woodward era. And clubs that come in and want to sign these players from Manchester United can't afford to pay them anywhere close to the wages they're getting at United. So for that reason, I mean, any player, players are completely different these days. They're going to stay put. They're going to, like, if Dean Henderson is the second best backup goalkeeper, or sorry, he's the highest paid backup goalkeeper in the world. I think he's on 160 grand at Manchester United, which is just crazy. So there's no team can afford to give him that money. And the majority of players are just going to dig their heels in, see out their contract, continue to collect the check, and then if they do go on a free after 2 or 3 years, they get a massive signing on bonus at the end of the day.
Yeah. Like, I don't think it's a case of that. I don't think no one sees a future for him or anything at United, do they? Like, there's no talks of him actually coming back.
I mean, like, the first point, and the first point I did want to get onto was in relation to the goalkeeper and David De Gea. And look, like, obviously, given the weekend that Manchester United had and the weekend that Henderson did have with Nottingham Forest saving the penalty at a very good game, there's always going to be, I suppose, comparisons instantly. Should we have let Dean Henderson go and stuff like that? I think maybe it was the right call to actually let him out, on loan. Will we ever get him back playing as the number one? I don't know. He did burn a lot of bridges with Manchester United and a lot of fans when he did come out with the comments a couple of weeks ago, basically slating United. But, like, in relation to the goalkeeping situation, obviously David De Gea had a massive part to play in Manchester United's shortcomings on the weekend. He was at fault for at least the first 2 goals. I think the first one was just criminal, letting the ball in under his hands. And the second one, playing the ball out to Christian Eriksen like that, knowing there, I mean, and I know Ten Hag wants to play this passing game out from the back, which a lot of the top teams do. You see the likes of Liverpool doing it, and well, I suppose Man City more so than Liverpool. But I mean, like, someone with David De Gea's experience and the amount of games he's played, surely he can see, well, Christian Eriksen is being closed down very quickly here. I shouldn't give it to him. I can go along, So I think it's his decision making more so than anything else. His shot stopping, he's probably up there with one of the best in the world over the last 10 years in terms of his shot stopping. But his presence in command in his box, coming out for corner or coming out for crosses, I don't think is good. And we know the shortcomings he has with the ball at his feet. So I just don't know if he's going to be the long-term solution. And I think once Ten Hag gets other areas sorted, there's a lot of areas to get sorted. And I don't think the goalkeeping situation is, our first priority, really. But I certainly do think down the line that Ten Hag will be looking to improve the goalkeeping situation. What do you think yourself?
Yeah, look, a thing about the goalkeeper anyways, the goalkeeper has a good attitude. He wants to be there. He wants the club to succeed. This has clearly hurt him. He was clearly upset after the game, I don't personally think these lads that are on 200-300 grand a week, everyone makes mistakes, but the guy has made a few higher blunders now over the last few years. And there was a year or two there where people are like, oh, he'll get back to his best. And you give him a lot of time. He was very loyal to you, but you've also been very loyal to him. But that first goal was absolutely criminal. Like, whatever way, I was just looking at, I'm not a goalie now, and it's very easy blame a keeper. You even see that playing junior football yourself. Like, it's a tough time for keepers in the goals. But he kind of dived and didn't have his body behind. He tried to, like, it was like he tried to catch it in a real weird way with not his body behind the ball, and it just squirmed through. Like,
yeah, like what I said live when I was doing the watch along, on the YouTube channel. Go and subscribe, by the way, anyone who's listening. So when I was watching it live, I was nearly expecting him to take a first touch. He literally could have took a first touch on it. There wasn't. It was that weak of a shot. He just didn't start his body. And I know exactly what you're saying. Get down on the ground. Basically lie on the ground and just scoop the ball into your chest, more so than going down with your fingertips.
Yeah, even if he was kind of, say, diving across and having his chest behind it. But look, as I said, it's easy for people that aren't the goalie to criticise it. It's a very lonely place, I'd say. But then again, he is at one of the biggest clubs in the world, and this is the responsibility you take on. It really set a kind of precedence for the game, because you can have this game plan and all this, and then bam, out of nowhere, this just happens. But then the second goal was equally as bad. Am I right in saying, did your centre half Martinez take the goal kick?
He took all of the goal kicks
Right.
especially for the first half. I was noticing that as well, and I couldn't figure it out because he was taking the goal kicks, but all he was doing was passing in 3 yards to the right to David De Gea.
I couldn't
and allowing.
understand it. And then
Well, I think the only sense that I could make out of that was that when he was doing that, him and Harry Maguire then were spreading themselves wider, maybe out to the edge of the box. But I don't see the point in it. I don't see why them two centre backs couldn't have started on the edge of the box, at the end line, say on where the end line meets the edge of the box, and just let De Gea just pass it to him from there. It just didn't make sense to me.
yeah, and then De Gea, look, he kind of stung Christian Eriksen there. You know what I mean? Eriksen was. I know a lot of people weren't shown for it, but Eriksen just kind of got stung, and
Well,
yeah,
what I thought there with Ericsson was, and it goes back to what I was saying there about, David De Gea having to make up his own mind when he sees Christian Eriksen is being closed down. And when the goal went in, Eriksen threw his hands up in the air and basically turned to De Gea and said, "Why did you give me that ball?" He wasn't looking for the ball. He was creating space in behind him. He was coming towards De Gea to create space behind him. And you could see Ronaldo made a kind of a half crossfield run into the space that Christian Eriksen made. And that's why he came towards the hay. He actually wasn't looking for the ball, in my opinion.
yeah, he's trying.
He was
He's
just,
trying to pull players with him just to create this space
yeah,
behind him.
exactly. So look, that's why I'm that's what I'm saying about the hair. And look, I in absolutely no way have an agenda against the hair or anything like that. I just think there's too many areas of his game that a modern goalkeeper needs to have that he just doesn't have. He doesn't command his box well enough. He's not overly good with the ball at his feet. He tends to be very weak under a cross. So I just think for that reason alone, I don't think he's going to be the long-term solution for United, really.
As you said,
But
I don't think it's their number one priority at the minute. There was plenty of other flaws in the team there on that day. Even the goal to go 3-0 up, they had whipped in a corner. I see Ivan Toney headed it back across the box, and it looked now to me the player that was kind of picking up and running after Ivan Toney was Christian Eriksen. But he headed it back across the box, and that centre half Ben Mee got up and nodded it in. It was a great header back across. But again, Martinez looked absolutely. He came out off the line, and Bren Mee when he jumped, just kind of like it was like he brushed him off. Like I don't really get this signing of your man Martinez, like 5'9" centre half, 60 million after coming from the Eredivisie. I personally didn't hear him before, but that's not to say that others didn't, and he's not a cracking player. But a centre half in the Premier League, a lot of big strikers in that Premier League.
yeah, and look, I said it obviously, in hindsight now, you can say, all right, maybe I did get wrong. But again, look, there's a lot of games to play, so I'm not going to judge him right away. But
Yeah, I know,
like,
but we're just
he,
talking about the game.
of
Like,
course,
and he
yeah,
was poor.
yeah, absolutely, he was poor. Is he the long-term option at centre back? I don't know. There's a lot of people and a lot of maybe fans that I've interacted across the social media platforms when we were linked with him and eventually got him that said no, he'll play as a CDM more than anything else. Now, if he is going to be playing as a CDM, then we need to go out and buy another centre back because we're just not good enough. But getting on to other areas of the pitch that do, I suppose, or that were weak. I mean, I don't
Poor
like
backs. Very
I
poor.
don't like, yeah, I don't like singling out, say, players of nationality, but I just think it just fell as a consequence that a lot of English or British players more so, because I'm going to include McTominay in this, are just atrocious at the moment. And the four that I would go and go out and say would be Maguire, Luke Shaw, Scott McTominay, and Rashford have just been absolutely atrocious. And not only in the first two games of this season, but this is going on now for close to 18 months, and I don't know, like Manchester United, a lot of the focus tends to fall on Cristiano Ronaldo and things like that. And it's always going to because he's, this global megastar. But, I think there's an awful lot more that Manchester United have to do in terms of recruitment, in terms of getting players out, moving them on. I think Ralph Rangnick was right back in March that he said United could potentially need 10 new players
Yeah,
because we're certainly showing it with the performances this season.
I 100% agree with you on some of them points, but it's like Manchester United sometimes going a bit of a merry-go-round. A player's playing bad, they drop him. They bring in the reserve for that area. Say, for instance, Wan-Bissaka and Dalot. Wan-Bissaka had a poor season last season. Everyone's crying out, get Dalot into the team. Dalot has a handful of good games, if even a handful, then starts starts to play poor. And then they're like, get Wan-Bissaka back in. He's much better. He can actually defend. But it was only 3-4 months ago that people were saying, get Wan-Bissaka out of this club, you know?
Yeah, I know. And
Like, it's kind of like a merry-go-round. It was the same with Shaw as well, swapping out with a few left fulls. And it's kind of once they come out of the limelight, people realise, people almost forget that they were slating him and bring him back in. But it's just get rid of some of these lads out of the club, full stop.
yeah, well, the players, excuse me, the players that I kind of mentioned there are the ones that me specifically, I would say, have consistently been poor over the last 3 years. Now, I know obviously Harry Maguire, came in and he's captain. He had a good season, not last season, the season before. He had a half decent season. I'm not going to say good. Luke Shaw has had two spells where he was good. One was under Louis van Gaal, where he was playing well for a couple of months before he broke his leg, and he had a spell under Ollie earlier on, under Ollie's tenure, where he played quite well again for a couple of months. But Luke Shaw has been at Manchester United for 8 years now,
Yeah.
and he's been consistently poor. This is just my opinion. I think he's been consistently poor. I have to say, I think a lot of the English players do get a pass when it comes to criticism, especially from the media, and a lot of players like to put blame on, Fred got an awful going over when he had a bad season. And, obviously Cristiano Ronaldo is getting a lot of heat in the press and things like that as well. But, I think the homegrown players that I mentioned there, I mean, Scott McTominay, I just can't get over how that man is still playing for Manchester United. And then we have reports this morning suggesting that Manchester United are actually open to selling James Garner for as little as 15 million. I just can't understand what we're doing. Okay, I do trust the manager in terms of what he wants to do and his vision, and he obviously knows a lot more than we do. We're just commentating on games and what we
What age
see.
is Garner?
but like James Garner hasn't even got a chance, really. He hasn't even got a chance. And if he's not better than Scott McTominay, then why aren't we selling Scott McTominay as well?
Yeah, what age is Garner?
22, 21.
But and I'm just wondering, why are you saying as little as 15 million?
That's what was been reported today. So
yeah. What price would you put on his head? What has he done? Bar a few.
Oh
good
yeah,
pieces?
no, I'm now look, I'm not.
What did you think he's worth?
Well, I'm just kind of saying that if a player like that was been recruited by Manchester United, there's no way we would get him for 15 million. You'd be looking at probably double that, 30 million easily. Even though he hasn't played in the Premiership, basically, he had a very good season with Nottingham Forest last year in terms of their promotion push. But I regardless of how much he's worth and how much he could go for, my point here is that if he's looking at the likes of Scott McTominay and Fred playing ahead of him, then maybe he's the one that's pushing for a move. If he's going, these lads are consistently playing bad for the last 12 months. I was trying out on loan last year when I was 20 years of age. I'm coming into, the years where I should be breaking into the first team squad. But these lads are consistently putting in poor performances, but yet they still get picked. And that's what I can't understand.
Yeah, the harmony and all in the club is probably very poor at the minute. I was reading, just say we said that about Henderson earlier on, had a pop off, and then I seen when Tellez moved to Sevilla, he said he was delighted, he was jumping at the opportunity the minute he heard of it. He didn't say in as many words he was mad to get out, but he kind of said it in, kind of made that almost be known that the minute the offer came in, he wanted to go straight away. So
yeah. But I think it's rotten to the core, I see. I think it's from, and obviously, look, the Glazer out movement is starting to pick up a lot of steam again, and I'm, I'm well behind it. I'm all for it. I do think we need changes at the club, but it's rotten from the core, out. Like we obviously, like I thought. In fairness, I thought what Gary Neville said was quite. I think he hit the nail on the head pretty much, where he said, if any business in the world was failing and the owners didn't show up and put all of the blame on their employees, You just don't see that anywhere else, and that's basically what the Glazers are doing. Now obviously, look, a lot of the decisions that have been made there over the last maybe 10 to 15 years in relation to the Glazers and who they've appointed, they do have to take majority of the fall for that. Obviously, they can't control players on the pitch, and performances on the pitch, but they can certainly put the infrastructure in place to
Yeah.
give players the best opportunity to go out and play well and
Say,
improve and
say
things like
going
that.
over the years since Ferguson left, bar Moyes maybe, I don't know what people thought of him. Did they make any appointment of a manager that you were like, why the hell are we appointing him?
No, at the time, I think, and I think it's kind of a catch-22 with Manchester United fans, because the majority of managers we've had, it's been negative, and I don't mean negative in terms of the way they play or anything like that, but in terms of results. And look, of course, Manchester United fans are so used to the Ferguson days of, dominating for 20 years, and that was great, but it was never going to last. But I think when the new manager then was appointed on the back of a string of poor performances by the previous manager, fans are bound to get excited. Like when Moyes came in after Ferguson, he was the longest serving manager in the Premier League after Ferguson. He was like obviously with Everton for like 10 years. So he was the longest serving manager. So I think that was probably the reason why they appointed him and gave him a 7-year contract, was because of that longevity.
Yeah.
Um, when Van Gaal was appointed, it was more so, oh, we're getting this guy who's done it throughout Europe with the likes of Barcelona and
Done
in
it all.
Holland and
He's a big name, plays nice football. Like you were
yeah.
delighted getting him.
Oh yeah, absolutely delighted. And then obviously subsequently that didn't work. And then Mourinho, the serial winner, comes in, and we're saying, brilliant. Here he comes. Right, his best days may be behind him, but he knows how to win, and he will get us winning trophies. And in fairness to him, he did. And I think subsequently, since Mourinho has left, a lot of the things that he said before he left in relation to how the club was run and maybe the support he wasn't getting, I think a lot of his comments have aged very well in relation to Mourinho. But it did get sour at the end, and people were kind of annoyed. United fans were annoyed of maybe the negativity. And then we went to the past player, the golden boy of Manchester United,
Yeah,
and
which was
Ollie had that
originally 6 months. He done well. The fans then got behind him. They wanted him. He was doing poorly. Then they kind of got by him and backed him again. The only point I'm putting across is that when you needed or wanted a new manager, they got someone that pleased the fans and that would have appeared to kind of like fit the jigsaw, fit the puzzle. They have financially backed you. You mightn't have had the best recruitment. I don't know who's over that side of things, but bar their
I'm
day.
going to let me just stop you right there. Let me just stop you
Yeah,
right there
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Okay, they have not financially backed us, the Glazers. They haven't. They've never put any of their own money into the club.
Yeah, no,
They've taken money that the club has generated to buy players,
yeah,
which which ideally you would like that reinvested back into the club in relation to improving the stadium, the infrastructure, the training ground, all of that kind of stuff.
yeah. Sorry,
You know,
that's my bad there. I just meant funds were made available
I
for
know. Yeah,
transfers, not necessarily saying it came
yeah.
out of their pocket. But I'm just saying United were never really stuck for a few bob. They went
No,
out
no,
and
and they never will be.
they splashed massive wages. You went out, you signed Alexis Sanchez for 350,000 a week. This is things other clubs can only dream of. I know in the background it's might be dull, but on the front they're trying to put on a front of glitz and glamour. It's just
Yeah.
it's just the way it is. In my opinion, I just have something here in front of me that I know you can't sell everyone, and the manager last year said you could potentially sell up to 10 and bring in 10 new. But the kind of line has to stop somewhere where you might say, like, right, look, we're going to write off 2 seasons and we're going to get rid of lads and bring in lads and just see where it goes, because this thing of whatever they're doing at the minute is not working. But even there's plenty of players that could go. Say Henderson, I know he's on loan, but that's another year of his contract run down where it'll reduce his value. Wan-Bissaka, if he's not playing, get rid of him. Dalot, in my opinion, isn't good enough for United. My opinion only. Rashford seems to want out. You're looking for 120 million. I think 60 would be tops that you would get from. Fred, McTominay, Bailey. If he could get rid of the likes of these players, raise funds, they're all probably on 100 grand plus a week. But it kind of appears to me, just from the offset of United, that United almost don't seem like they're capable of doing more than one deal at once. This whole summer has just been about Frankie de Jong. And you've got in, when things have died down, you got in Martinez there. And who else came in, Jack?
So we got in Malacia, the left back,
Malacia,
and then
that's it.
Christian Eriksen.
Christian Eriksen. But it's like there's other clubs doing multiple deals there at once. It's like everything is so focused. Like the kind of summer will be a disaster, you'd say it yourself, if Frankie doesn't sign, won't it?
Yeah, I think it does hinge around not I don't mean hinge around the whole transfer window hinges around his signing. Obviously, he's by far the highest quality player that we're in for throughout the summer.
Yeah.
But I think Ten Hag is so adamant on rebuilding Manchester United and the team around him. And the fact that we've been after him for, I think it's close to 15 weeks now, that it's going to be very, very embarrassing if we don't get him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now look, Manchester United, and I do agree with you. I really do have to say I agree with you there in relation to the fact that we can't be doing multiple deals at once. And I don't know how the structure is in relation to recruitment. John Murtagh came out and met with fans and done all of that, or sorry, Richard Arnold, and basically came out and said, I'm not going to be doing the recruiting or because he didn't want to be seen similarly to Ed Woodward, because basically Ed Woodward, was negotiating for players when he's a businessman, he's not a football man. And Richard Arnold came out and said that when he met fans in a pub. But we hear this week that he's been in to negotiate with Rabiot's agent.
His mother.
And there was pictures, his mother, and there was pictures of him multiple occasions in Barcelona trying to get the Frankie de Jong deal over the line. So he's basically been talking through his arse in relation to what he said to fans. So I don't know what's going on in the background. You would be thinking the club of Manchester United and the size that they have and the money that they have, that they can do more than one deal at the same time. But
And
yeah.
Rashford just kind of like by the looks of Twitter kind of gave the first indication that he would actually almost consider leaving United. No, that didn't come from his mouth, but just from multiple sources where you're reading.
Yeah, well, look, I would say one thing about Rashford, and I said it before the start of the season, before a ball was kicked, that he has this season left to prove himself. And if he doesn't, then he's going to, not that Manchester United fans are going to turn on him, but they're going to say, well, look, maybe it's time that you do go. And a lot of the talk was that Rashford he was only maybe angling for a new contract at Manchester United. And a lot of players do this. They get their representatives to come out and say, there's links here with PSG or whoever it is, and then United panic and offer him a new deal. Now I think that's absolute bullshit, to be honest with you, because the reason why any player should get a new deal is because they're playing well. But Manchester United are very commercial, and it's again, this goes back to the Glazers, where they see players not more so as to get them results on the pitch, but to get them money in their pockets and use them as assets to sell shirts, to get sponsorship deals. And I think Marcus Rashford has a massive draw when it comes to that in relation to, the charity work that he's doing and all of that kind of stuff as well, So I think I can't see it happening. I really can't see it happening. But I just hope that United don't fall for the trick of offering him a new deal while he's playing the way he's playing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the kids will go hungry. But just
Yeah.
briefly back to the match, Jack. I know United were very poor, but there has to be credit given to Brentford. Brentford came out with a game plan by the looks of it. Their manager spoke about it. He said they didn't want to let United settle. They basically wanted to just run amok, chase everything down, put pressure on United make the mistakes. And it kind of happened almost for most of the goals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
And I thought going into the game, like, obviously I had my United hat on when I was doing my score predictions, and I went 2-1 to United. But I mean, deep down I was thinking this is going to be a very tough day on the back of a performance that we had against Brighton. And you could see it, and it was nearly the first 20 minutes or so was nearly a carbon copy of the Brighton game. Manchester United actually started quite well. They were on top. They had a lot of possession. They had a couple of chances. Bruno Fernandes blazed one over the bar. It was basically identical to the start of
Yeah.
the Brighton game. And then what happens? The opposition team settles down. They start getting their shape back. They get onto the ball a little bit. And Manchester United do what they always do then. They panic and they hit the reset button.
Well, it
You
was
know,
very, it
and
was very early doors in the game, and Maguire had the ball. He was carrying it out. Now, to be fair to Maguire, he didn't have a whole lot of options on. But again, Ericsson, who appeared to me, it was like Ericsson was almost playing in the six on Sunday or on Saturday, and Ericsson was dropping deep from again. Looked to me as a decoy. Maguire gives him the ball, and he loses the ball. Ericsson loses the ball, just kind of goes to dink one out over his right shoulder out to the right winger or right full.
yeah,
They win possession, come in, Maguire takes him down on the edge of the box, yellow card after 15, 20 minutes. Nightmare. And then Maguire
yeah,
gets up, throwing up the hands, telling the ref he won the ball and all, even though he actually took down two Brentford players.
yeah.
Brentford
But I
kind
think,
of had
yeah,
it
go on.
early doors. They had their game plan and they seen that it was working. You know, once they started kind of pressuring these players, and I'd say a lot of United players, as high profile as they are, they know they're getting scrutinised for everything they do. They're probably a bag of nerves out there.
Oh yeah, it's an absolute pressure cooker there. But it just goes to show the mentality that a lot of them players have. They're not able to deal with it. They're just not able to deal with it, you know. And even some of the, you know, the so-called top tier players like Bruno Fernandes has been a shadow of himself the last 12 months. You know, had a great maybe 12, 18 months when he first came in, but he's just fell off the face of the planet, really, you know. And I think a lot of that has to do with Cristiano Ronaldo coming in. I have to say,
Yeah,
like
well,
Bruno
look,
Fernandes yeah,
they
Bruno
did
Fernandes was the
coincide
main
together.
man.
They did coincide together. That
Yeah,
went good. But look, we'll leave Manchester United there for the minute. We might pop back to him. Will we move on? You have a point here on Jesus. We'll just talk
yeah.
about
So
Arsenal. I know
yeah,
now
so
personally you kind of slated Arsenal a bit last week, said you didn't really rate them, you didn't rate their manager. It's kind of they're looking sharp. I know it's only 2 games in, but they're kind of looking the complete opposite of Manchester United at the minute.
yeah, look, I agree, and I'm gonna keep my predictions on
Yeah.
Arsenal because look, I mean historically, when I mean historically, I mean over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, what have Arsenal done? They've had spells where they've been absolutely world class, playing some lovely football, look really good. But at the end of the day, I still think they're quite flaky. Now look, if I'm proved wrong, I'm proved wrong, and this may be a turning point for Arsenal. If the manager is changing the mentality for them, and if they're eventually going to get over the line, and not over the line in relation to challenging for league titles, right? Because I still think they're miles away from that. I'm just still not convinced by him. Look, I think they do have some good quality in their team. Obviously, Gabriel Jesus took all of the plaudits on the weekend, 2 goals and 2 assists. I think he was involved in every Arsenal goal. And my opinion is solely based over a 38 game season. Can they
Oh,
consistently do it over 38 games? I don't think they can. I think their manager can lose his head a little bit too much. I've been watching that um, Amazon All or Nothing documentary of Arsenal, and I know I think some of the stuff he does is laughable.
it
But
is
look,
laughable, but look, it's just different management styles. And I think after watching the All or Nothing, I've kind of grown a soft spot for Arsenal now, as I'd say a lot of people would have. I think they've made a few decent signings during the summer. I think the manager's heart is in the right place and he wants him going the right direction. He has his kind of plan and tactics and he's sticking to it. Like, I watched the Arsenal game and Jesus not only could have had 3 in the first half, he could have had 4. He did take all the plaudits, but you have to say this Martinelli is stepping up. It's only 2 games into the season, but he started the season well. He started
yeah,
well. Even Xhaka, they're playing. I think Xhaka, I know they play very different roles, but kind of similar enough situation over the past few years to where Maguire is now. He was captain. I know Maguire doesn't argue with the fans. Maguire's kind of very feeble, he's not going that kind of person. Xhaka is very outspoken, but they took the captaincy off Xhaka, and it's almost like that small weight was lifted, and he can enjoy his football more without the
Yeah,
responsibility of being the captain.
yeah,
I'm not
absolutely. Yeah,
saying
I
he's a
agree.
world beater or anything now, but I'm just saying I know we are only 2 games in, but I do think they look like they could push definitely for top four this season. I
Oh
think you
yeah, I
left
think
them their top four.
yeah, I think I had him in sixth, but again, I had him in
Six.
sixth because I wanted to put United ahead of him. But look, I had my top three as City, Liverpool, and Spurs, and then I was thinking then the other three obviously will be fighting it out for the top. I think I certainly do think Arsenal will be fighting for top four. Will they get it in the end? We get on to Chelsea in a bit. I certainly do think they're a lot stronger than I first predicted.
Yeah,
Obviously we'll get on to them in a little bit. A couple of comments are after coming in here. Just let me fly through them.
yeah,
Irish lad says, "Do you think every team we play against will play the same tactics?" That's in relation to United. I don't see why they wouldn't. To be honest with you, I mean, United and a lot of pundits are all saying it now. United are probably the easiest team in the league to play against now. I think any team that'll come and play against United will fancy their chances, put some pressure on them early on, press them high up the field, force them into mistakes, and I'd be surprised if the majority of teams didn't play similar tactics. And Irish lad says Arsenal look dangerous at the moment. Definitely think they'll get top four. And then someone with a weird username says, very tame tonight, lads. Start slagging each other. That's probably Bash. Irish says, took Sancho out my fantasy team and put Martinelli in. He's had a great start. He certainly has, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, look, I mean, in relation to the top four, then I suppose the other big game of the weekend was Chelsea and Spurs, and what a game it was! I watched the majority of it now, and look, I thought Chelsea were by far the better team. They basically dominated the game, but a couple of controversial goals for Spurs. But I suppose Spurs are starting to show a bit of that fighting mentality that historically they've been renowned for not having, and I think that's maybe the Conte effect certainly that he's bringing into the team. What did you make of the game yourself?
yeah. I actually watched the whole game there, and Spurs got absolutely battered,
They did, yeah,
like an ass in that first half. They like Conte then, like they were very poor in the first half. Chelsea were playing very, very high up the pitch. Like if you actually look back over clips of that, like Koulibaly and even their wing backs, they weren't even playing on the halfway line. They were playing on the edge of the centre circle in the opposition's half. They were. I couldn't believe how high up the pitch they were. And Koulibaly, what a strike for the first.
yeah.
Like what a
I
strike.
your man
I,
Silva centre back for Chelsea just seems to have the I don't know the potion for life or something. He just doesn't seem to age. I mean,
no,
he's 38, 39 now, is he?
yeah, 37 or 38 anyway. Yeah, but
Yeah,
look,
and he looks
looks
like a
fit. He does.
28-year-old.
He does. He does. But I think definitely, I wouldn't be the personal fan's favourite of the player, but I think the absolute changing of the game was on the hour mark when they brought in Richarlison. He has
Yeah,
that kind of real bit of dirt about him. Do you know that bit of like, he annoys opponents, he gets stuck in, he puts himself about, and they actually moved from a three at the back to a four when they brought him on, and they went two up top. And I'd be personally a fan of two up top. Not every team can play the two wide wingers and the one up top like Liverpool can, but when they went two up top, the game completely changed. They
yeah,
get into it a lot more. They were pressing a lot more. Conte got all his subs right. I think he brought on. I think three of his new signings were the three subs that came on.
yeah. That's right.
Perisic came on, Richarlison, and who's the other boy?
Uh, per, um, did he bring on Spence? No.
No, he did not bring on Spence.
He's out of my fantasy anyway. That was a poor decision out of me
I,
putting Spence in my fantasy team.
oh, no, who was the
But
other? Oh, he brought on Basuma there for half an hour as well.
Basuma, that was it. Yeah, that was it. Well, I
Three
wanted to ask you, Ricey, in relation to that game. Obviously, there's a lot of talks surrounding the game itself and the fact that the referee seemed to let an awful lot go. And there seems to be this kind of, I suppose, how do I say it? It seems to be put out by the FA nearly that they're going to maybe give referees the opportunity to let a lot more go, for tackles to start coming back into the game and challenges and things like that. What did you make of the referee last night? Now, obviously, there was very controversial decisions in relation to goals. Me personally, I thought it was great to see some challenges flying back in and a bit of spice back in the game.
It was great to see. I wouldn't mind seeing that what happened after the match between the two managers. Bit of passion. Don't want things going overboard, but like it's great to see from a neutral point of view. But if you were Chelsea and on the losing end of that, and say, like there was, I don't know how to say your man's name. That lad they signed from Juventus, the centre mid last year, not Kulevski, whatever that lad's name is. The other Bentancur or something.
Oh yeah, Bentancur, yeah.
Bentancur, him and that Højbjerg, they were doing professional fouls all over the place. Then who was 17? Romero. Grab the head of hair, wig the head off your man. In the box. Like
Cucurella.
I know it's in his own box, but like the referee had the best view of that. They actually reviewed that and said no, they didn't think anything of it. Like he grabs his hair.
It was disgraceful.
Round, absolutely disgraceful. Look, the other ones are tough when they're saying Richarlison is offside and he's in the keeper's line of sight. Them things aren't always black and white. I know it looks like he's in the line of sight, and look, I think if they are going with that rule, that probably shouldn't have been a goal, But
and I think
the spice of the game.
Yeah, and I think the foul was too far behind. Remember, they were calling for a foul in the build-up to Spurs' first goal.
Yeah, no, I do think when Havertz got taken down, that I personally think that was a foul. As a defender, you're going to claim you got the ball all day, but I do when you slow things down to the degree that the VAR slows things down, it can actually change your opinion on things. But you have to kind of go with like how things run in real life, Sometimes I know a handball and all is different, but like 9 times out of 100 that looked like a foul.
Yeah, and there was different angles that they were showing, and a couple of angles it did look like a foul, and a couple it looked like a really good challenge.
No, I did see one angle where it looked like he got a toe to the wall, but then it was like looking at it in real time, and I was like, "There's no way he got to that." The ball direction didn't even seem to change.
Yeah, but the one camera angle that it shows him where it looks like he wins the ball is actually the same line of sight that the referee has. You can actually see the referee in the frame. So I can understand why he didn't give it. And he does point to the ball instantly, the referee does, when the challenge is made to say he got a touch on it, But I'm delighted to see that back in the game, I have to say, and a lot of this, hopefully they're consistent with it now, because a lot of the simulation that goes on and, players throwing themselves to the ground, trying to buy free kicks and things like that, I think it's just destroying the game, really. And
I also do think sometimes that you can kind of see in a player's reaction if they're being genuine, and I do think Havertz was being genuine that he got taken. Your man kind of came in from behind him as well. I know he might have won the ball, but I thought the rule is like you can't tackle from behind. He's not going through him, he's kind of coming around him, but still coming from behind.
Yeah, look,
like he's not coming through, taking the legs from underneath him, but his leg is still coming from behind him to kind of scoop in around him to flick the ball.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But look, as you said, that was very far back. There was probably a good 60 seconds of play that led up, and I think Chelsea had even won the ball back. There was kind of a couple of errors along the way before the ball actually went in,
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's get on to Man City. And look, we're not going to overly talk about the game an awful lot. I specifically want to talk about Kevin De Bruyne. He's been one of the pointers I have here. And I just thought he was sensational on the weekend. And I've been kind of putting it out there to a lot of people I've been talking to online on the channel and stuff like that as well, in relation to De Bruyne. And, is he world class? Is he up there with the best players in the world at the moment? I put him. easily up there.
I don't think anybody would say that he's not world class.
He-
I know he's not like he's still
But
in.
is he Ballon d'Or contender kind of class at the moment?
Look, if you want to be Ballon d'Or contender, you have to win a good bit to go with it. You know, you really have to be trying anyway to put that Champions League with it. If they won the Champions League and if he had a good season, I don't see why he couldn't be. You know, it's all kind of down. Like he pulls all the strings for Man City. It depends also how long he stays fit for. He is kind of prone to a couple of injuries, but if you actually seen like what he done, I think it was for Man City's second goal. He pulls out so far wide on the right hand side. He like actually stretched the defense and made room for himself to run into it for when the ball was threaded into him, and he took the ball into the edge of the box and outside of the right boot into the bottom left corner. Like
Yeah, and the way he dropped the shoulder
yeah,
before he took the shot was just unbelievable because it just gave him that extra maybe little inch that opened up the goal for him. You know, I just think he's so silky smooth. It's unbelievable. I think he's probably going to be the difference, you know, between Man City and Liverpool this year. The likes of him and Haaland just linking up for the whole season. I
Haaland
think.
there again, like had 8 touches. I think he completed 2 passes. One pass was tip off, and the other pass was the assist. But even for the assist, he took the ball in. He was falling, held someone off, and just kind of flicked the ball through. You know,
Yeah,
like I know there were a lot of people probably had him captained in the fantasy, but again, look, they want to be beating Bournemouth comfortably, especially at home. Bournemouth wouldn't be expected to win that. I was actually impressed enough with Travers in the goal. The Irish guy,
yeah.
though he conceded 4 goals, he still pulled off numerous saves.
Yeah,
Look,
absolutely.
their squad depth is just sick, isn't it? Like
Oh,
even I was
it's
looking at the
disgusting.
Liverpool bench tonight. It's Liverpool have quality players, but their bench looks very light there. Like if you look at that City bench that they had there the other day, it's absolutely sick.
Yeah. Couple of comments here. Berkey Ahern says, "Nail, you hit the nail on the head, Ricey." Not sure what that's in relation to. I'm sure he's right though. And Irish lad says, "Surely Benzema will get the Ballon d'Or this year." Yeah, and look, that does go back to what you're saying, and I think you're spot on with it, Ricey. Is the fact that you know you do need to be adding the Champions League really to the cabinet before. Well, not specifically before you're going to be in the frame for Ballon d'Or,
I
but
know.
it
Look, it
certainly
just
does
seems to
help.
be kind of part and parcel of it. You know that like you have to be kind of picking up on them major trophies. I know over the years Messi and that haven't done it, and they've still won it. But like again, they were on a different planet at the time. There's
Yeah, but
just one
and
thing.
you look at even when say Luka Modric won it, he won it the year that they won one of their European cups, you know, and you'd be saying to yourself, would he have ever got that? No, he probably shouldn't have got it anyway, but he probably would have never got it if they hadn't have won the Champions League,
Yeah.
you know, you know.
Um. There's just another
Anyway,
match there that I want to kind of briefly talk about
yeah,
is the Aston Villa and
versus Everton.
versus Everton match, because I think this was kind of interesting in more ways than one. Personally, I think that Lampard in my opinion, he must be favoured to get the boot first this season. He is that Everton team. If you go through that team from start to finish, like that's a championship team. Even they signed that lad from Burnley, Dwight McNeil. Doesn't
Yeah,
even really look like a footballer, you know. He's 20 or 25 million or something. Like they have that lad up top. What's the young lad Gordon? Is it playing centre forward? I
Gordon,
see Chelsea actually bid 40 million or something during the
40
week.
million. Yeah,
But
it
I don't
was
know.
declined.
Jeez, I don't know why they're looking at that lad. You know, he has a face you'd love to smack. But I just think Everton. I don't know. Like Lampard reverted. I see it, or not Lampard. Gerrard reverted in from what he was doing in pre-season. He was kind of playing the one up top or the two high wingers, and he's gone to two up top again after the loss on the first day. Mings was back in the team. Look, he got a good win, but I also think that if results weren't going his way, that he could also like be kind of feeling the pinch, you know.
Yeah, and statistics were shown there during the week that that he actually has the same stats that Gary Neville had at Valencia when he got the sack in relation to wins, draws, and losses.
Yeah,
Um,
Gerrard. like Gerrard's name alone, and kind of deservedly so, would pull a lot of weight. You know, like a lot of players in England would love to play for Gerrard. A lot of players that have played with him before and would be kind of friendly with him. Like without Gerrard, there's no way Villa would have got like the likes of Coutinho. Who's that centre mid? Did they sign from Marseille on a free transfer? I seen United were linked with him too.
Kamara.
You know, there's like some of these guys, there's no way they would have got him. Even Digne was a good signing there for him. And he's kind of piecing together a nice team. But like I hope it takes well from. There's a lot of Irish support. There's a lot of Villa have a big Irish backing, and
Yeah.
I have a good few friends that support Villa as well. I'd like to see him do good. I'd like to see Gerrard do good, but I just think he could be under pressure if he doesn't start producing more consistent results. I'm not saying push him for top six or anything, but you know they want to be well in that top half. I just think
Yeah.
Everton. I do think Everton could go down this season.
Yeah. Well, I suppose just as the United representative here on the United Community Podcast, I hope he does an awful job, Steven Gerrard. I hope he gets relegated. But yeah, we just have to even it out here, really, don't we? But look, I certainly do think he has the, as much as it kills me to say, he does have the makings of a good manager. He knows what he wants, and he demands an awful lot from his teams. You know, yeah, he's Liverpool and Rangers, so it doesn't get any worse really for me. Um, but yeah, no, look, I mean, you know, you're talking there about Lampard, and I do agree with you. I think he has. I think when I seen him taking that Everton job, I was saying to myself, "Oh, Frank, you know, just hold out. You know, hold out for a different job because this Everton job, it's near. Well, it's not nearly as bad as United, but it's certainly close to United in relation to just being a pies and chalice. You know, with the owners that they have. I know they're building a new stadium and all that, and they're looking to improve and everything, but you know they've sacked managers too frequently over the last few years, and you kind of have that leftover players that are still there from a number of different managers, and it's never a good thing, really.
Geez, I was actually kind of thinking the opposite. I was thinking that Lampard kind of could be jumping at that opportunity. I was surprised he even got a club of the kind of stature of Everton. Like, look, Everton have a big history. They are a big club, whatever way you want to look at it. I didn't think he got the Chelsea job kind of on his history of being with Chelsea. He done an okay job with Derby, got into the playoffs, but the two previous years before Lampard had taken over Derby, they were also in the playoffs. He had 3 or 4 young lads on loan there from Chelsea at the time also, so he was getting handouts left, right and centre. I just could be the makings of a good manager. I just don't think he's a Premier League manager anyway. Like some of
Yeah.
the signings have been crazy.
Yeah, well, we have a question here from Berkey in the chat, and he says, who do you think is the best manager in the Premier League?
Well, in the Premier League, this will sound biased, whatever, but I would think Jurgen Klopp, for the simple fact, if you look at the team that he took over at Liverpool, and he's there, 4 or 5 years now, and people say, oh, he only won one league, he only won one Champions League. He was in 2 Champions Leagues. He won everything there was there that he could possibly win, that he was in. And if you see the first teams that I think Colo Torre and them were in there. The only person that was still there, I think, is it James Milner, Jordan Henderson,
Yeah, and I think Bobby Firmino.
Bobby Firmino. Like, you have to give credit there. He has spent money, but he's also like sold. You know when they go on about what is it, these net spends and all. Like Liverpool
Yeah.
do keep it in nice moderation. But I know they're your biggest rivals, but like surely you couldn't be looking too far after him. I know Pep is up there as well.
Yeah, well, there's always that argument, really,
Yeah.
between Pep and Klopp, isn't there? The fact that Pep has always gone where the money is, really, and he's never done it on a tight shoestring budget before. Whereas, and look, I know what you're saying there with Klopp as well. He has spent money. You know, he spent a lot of money on Van Dijk, on Allison.
But
Darwin Nunez.
no more than Chelsea has spent. No more than any of the other top sides have spent. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of
Yeah.
like he's got a lot more out of some average players than other people have out of their players. Like Man City let James Milner go 5 or 6 seasons ago, and if you looked, you'd probably say James
He's
Milner,
done
the
now.
best part of his career has been at Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, like if you're leaving Man City like that when they're challenging for league titles, you're thinking, right, James Milner is going to go back to Leeds United here now or something. But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he just seems to go on and on and on, you know. But yeah, look, I'd probably, as much as it kills me to say, I would have to probably agree with you there with Klopp, you know, in relation to best manager. And I think what I'm so impressed about him is that, and Liverpool in general, and again, this kills me to say, but I think United can take a lot of, and should take a lot of pointers from them. Is that when you get a manager in like Klopp, obviously he plays a certain style of football, and you get players that suit that certain style of football. And look, I don't want to harp on about United too much because I'm depressed enough as it is, but United seem to be doing it the opposite way. They seem to be buying players and then trying to get a manager to coach them players rather than getting a manager and getting players that fit his way of playing. You know, and Ranić said it, you know, and lads that are listening to me and watching any of the stuff I do will know how big of a fan I was of him. But he hit the nail on the head basically with everything he said, and that's what he said. He said you decide what way you want to play the game, what style of football you want to play, and then you get players to suit that way. You know. Um, let's see what, as there's a couple of comments coming in here as well. Mickey Dunn says Klopp easily the best in the current era. Irish lad says Pep for me. United should have went all out to get him before he went for City. Before he went to City. Mickey says the players at City. But the players at City still couldn't win the Champions League. Go on, Mickey. That's a shot by United fans are in. Yeah, anyway, look, let's get into what we left to talk about. I suppose we'll spend a couple of minutes on the fantasy before we finish up. And we have a head-to-head this week. And it was actually me and you going head-to-head this week. I haven't checked it yet. I presume you've probably won. How did you get on this week anyway?
Yeah, if you went head to head, actual head size, you'd win hands down. But this head to head, I'm after battering you.
Well, how'd you get on? Give me your points total. Actually, do you know what? Give me what did you make any changes going into
I
this week?
made one
Because you were
change.
mentioning it last week.
I made the change intelligently enough, just going on stupid errors I made last year. I took a gamble week one of bringing in Kane over Haaland. I regretted that big time when Kane blanks and Haaland scores. Haaland scores two or whatever.
Yeah.
So when Haaland scored that second goal last week, I went and took Kane out for Haaland before the game week was even over. And when I went to bed that night and woke up the other day, Kane had dropped from 12.5 to 12.4 and Haaland had gone from 12.5 to 12.6. So there was 0.2 of a swing in the difference. So if I hadn't been a tactical genius there and then, I would have missed out. And I just do think, I know Kane scored yesterday, look, and then Haaland kind of blanks or he gets his 5 points with his assist. But I just think from what I've seen, I think in the long run, like Haaland's going to get bags of chances. Like even that one, Phil Foden should have squared that ball to him the other day and he would have had it, you know. But he's just going to get so many chances. And by the looks of things, Kane, like if Conte sorts out his tactics, I don't know if the three at the back necessarily suits him too much. They were a lot more attacking when they had the two, but they have players now that have given more squad depth and more options. Perisic and that is aging, but he's bringing experience with him, you know.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you something there. What was I going to say?
Me and you are neck and neck though here, to be honest. We're both on Liverpool now.
What was your points total? Well, so far, obviously the Liverpool game is on at the moment.
So far, I've 64 points. Salah's my captain, he's playing, and I have Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he's playing, and you have Trent playing, and you
Luis
have
Diaz
playing. So the only difference is I have Salah, you have Diaz. I think I'm 3 points ahead.
Yeah, you have captain as well, so you should ideally sort up. Did you bring in Jesus into your team eventually, or is he in at all?
Jesus was in it from the start. That lad was only 8 million. That's a steal, you know. And just a few more words on Jesus. When he was previously with City, he kind of always seemed to score when he started with City, but they never really kind of had that belief in him. And then they kind of shoved him out wide when Aguero was in the centre. But like he's just seemed to after getting a new lease of life into him, you know, like he's kind of really bringing a lot of life to Arsenal. He's kind of after brightening him up. Do you know, they have that other lad in centre back. Is it Saliba? How do you pronounce his name?
Saliba. Yeah, that's right.
He was on loan last season. He looked a player in that first game. He's young, you know.
Well, the feel-good factor seems to be back at Arsenal, you'd have
It
to
does.
say,
I know it's early days, but look, look how early days it is for United, and it's the complete opposite end of the stick. It's all
Mm,
depressed and this is terrible. Whereas if he had 2 wins from two now, he'd be like, right, new manager in, 2 wins from two. We're
yeah, here we
we're
go.
second in the league with 6 points. I know it's only 2 games, but it's a bright start. You have to take the positives because when you're doing bad, you're taking the negatives. So you have to ride that
Yeah.
wave when you're there.
Well, again, as well, you do have to realise that it's a 38-game season as well, and there's a lot of football to play. Like, you look at Arsenal last year, they lost their first 3 games, and you see where they finished up, you know what I mean? So, look, I do think that there's a lot of improvements that are needed at Manchester United, but again, look, it's a long-term project. Now, it might be a little bit longer than we thought after seeing them first 2 games, but yeah, I agree with you in relation to Arsenal. They certainly are looking good and looking
All
strong.
the others,
I reserve judgment on whether they can do it over a 38-game season.
you think they'll
Um,
finish ahead of United?
oh, Jesus Christ!
Will
I
we make
mean,
a bet? €50. I'll have Arsenal, you have United.
well, yeah. Why would I just like? I'd be giving you €50, like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like, Arsenal will definitely finish ahead of United.
go with your heart, not with your head.
I can't do that when €50 is on the line. You know what I mean? Because, like, Manchester United are
I still didn't
so
get
in.
paid for my pod last week.
You're not getting paid because I'm not getting paid. I'll buy you a pint next weekend. Um, but yeah, look, it's a long season. Hopefully, Manchester United can get some signings in the door before the end of the transfer window. I do see that there's been reports at the moment. Let me see now what's
Rata.
coming through here. Manchester United have reached a mutual fee agreement with Stuttgart for Sasa Kaladzic. His medical is planned for the weekend.
Sounds
Any
good.
thoughts on him? Do you know anything on him?
No. So,
No, I'd have to do my research on him now, to be
but
honest.
it's not a great sign when you didn't hear him. But look, that could also, all these big names bringing in. Like, I think Alvaro Morata would be an absolute disaster. That lad has the best agent in the world. I don't know how
Yeah,
he does get the moves he does. I was reading a
yeah.
thing before that they were saying that he's part of like some money laundering scheme. Do you know that like people are just washing money through his like transfers or something? Like he's
Crystal Palace are gone 1-0 up.
oh no,
Zaha's after scoring.
oh no.
Yeah, now there'll be a VAR check. It looked like a very close offside. Um, yeah, but the ref never called and the flag never went up. So yeah, they're 1-0 as it stands. Yeah, so Liverpool
Look,
could still only be 1 point ahead of Manchester United going into the
yeah.
game next week. Oh, he's onside. Yeah, he's clearly onside. That's 1-0.
But you know who else, Jack? Just there before we finish up, I meant to say a few words on him. Was who look absolutely brutal, and I'd say their manager, like, kind of going on previous, like, say previous contracts he had with teams and all. He kind of has this third year syndrome a bit. Rogers, this Leicester team I think they signed a backup keeper. They've signed no one outfield. James Madison. Uh, Three other players are linked with moves. Who is it? Madison, and the centre half is linked with Chelsea.
Yeah, Fafana, and
Fana.
then
There's
then
another.
obviously Tielemans. Tielemans has been linked with Arsenal.
Three other biggest players are linked with moves, and they've signed absolutely no one.
Nobody. But see, the
Jamie
problem
Vardy,
there with him as well, Ricey, is that a lot of their big players, like Tielemans, only has 1 year left on his contract. I think, like I heard this morning, that Vardy has been linked with United. You know what I mean? Now, come on. Now I do know that he only has 1 year left on his contract as well. They do have a few players in that situation. I think they're in big trouble.
yeah, I do
Now,
too. Don't
maybe
think
not this
relegation
this
trouble now.
year. No, but I think the fact that they're not investing in the squad at the moment, given how light they are, I think it's a very slippery slope back to the championship that can happen over maybe a 2 or 3 year period if you don't invest properly now. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah. Anyway, other than that, any final comments or thoughts you want to let us know about?
No, is there any more comments in there?
Let's see what people are saying here. Ranić wanted him or warned him to stay in Stuttgart, says Mickey. I presume that's about Kaladzic. Irish lad says, brilliant. Hadza had to score first. Lovely. Few bob there. Mickey says, Leicester are going to be fighting relegation this year. If they don't get players in, they're going to struggle. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
I just
So
have
that looks...
one thing before I sign off is
You're a dickhead. You're an absolute dickhead. Not only are you putting the boot in there, but you're playing that numpty, Paddy Murphy. You're an absolute numpty. So you're...
Oh, I did some laughing at that when I came across that. Jack,
anyway,
enjoyable chat. Thanks very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it, Ricey. Thanks everyone who's listened as well, guys. United Community Podcast. Anyone that's listening back to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening, please do give us a like, a follow, and a 5-star review. You can follow us on all social media platforms as well: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. We're United Community Channel across all of them. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like and subscribe and share. Again, Ricey, thanks for joining us tonight again. Hopefully we can have you back on next week or whenever you're available again. I really appreciate it. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next week. Take care.